Natalie, welcome to Upfront. Thank you so much for joining us. Very exciting to be out here in the Dominican Republic and covering this. We have to reflect firstly on last night's game because it was a wild one against Mexico. Was that the longest match you've ever experienced, do you feel like?
Yes, I think so. The longest, craziest football match I've ever experienced in my life. And my voice is still struggling as well from it, to be honest. But yeah, I'm not sure there's going to be ever any reflecting on that. We've tried to process it a little bit. But yeah, it was a crazy night, but a good one.
For our listeners' benefit, I did reference the scoreline, the fact that you came back from 2-1 down, the 10 players, but I still don't think that in itself really reflects the kind of wildness of the game. You look very calm on the sideline.
Yeah, I do try and stay calm. I think you're almost in the moment and you feel you have a job to do and you have to be calm and you have to try and think clearly. It was difficult to think clearly in that game. But I think the game had a bit of everything. I think obviously we like to play with flow and with rhythm and keep the ball and dominate games. It was very stop-start, which killed a bit of our style to start with. Obviously the review system, that is interesting in how we deal with that as a team. And then, yeah, the scoreline, the 10 players, just some of the challenges we had to overcome. It was a wild night. But yeah, we're happy to be over the line.
I'm sure. The review system you touched on there. So every team has 2 options to review. It's a bit like tennis, isn't it? With having 3 requests to check something.
Yeah.
That was new, right? That's a new thing for you to deal with as well, right?
Yeah, it's totally new for us. I think it's certainly something we've done a lot of research on as a group of coach and staff in terms of how we can maximise that, what do we need to be aware of with it. I guess it has 2 sides to it. When we put in a review, that has an effect on the opposition, but it has an effect on us, and then vice versa. So we've really tried to think through how best to utilise those reviews and almost have a process of maximising them. But again, it's something that we're getting used to. It kills the flow of the game at times. It's something the players are learning to manage almost as we go along with it. But I think they're doing pretty well with it, so I'm happy with that.
Definitely. First game, we didn't know what was going on when people were waving arms and the ref was coming over, but we learned very quickly. Tell us a bit about how you've built this squad in preparation for this tournament.
Yeah, I think the squad... Obviously, I've worked with the squad all season. We had a successful Euro campaign, which we feel has really helped us kick on ready for the World Cup. Before we came out here, we went to Miami for a preparation camp. We wanted to work on some things on the pitch that we feel we fell short on in the Euros and things to tidy up. So we had a good opportunity to do that. Good opportunity to get used to the humidity and the jet lag. Obviously, this country is very different weather-wise in terms of what we're used to in England. So trying to get used to that and being able to perform in that, not just cope with it, is something we've kind of packaged up in our preparation camp. So yeah, we've done a lot of preparation. There's been a lot of planning went into this camp, as well as on the pitch as well, preparation. So yeah, we felt like we were in a good place coming into the World Cup.
The other thing I guess you had to factor as well is the fact that you're playing very different opposition. You don't often get the opportunity to play opposition from maybe outside of Europe at youth levels. So something I guess that you have to factor into your preparations, how much of your preparations are looking at other styles of football, or is it very much just focusing on you?
Yeah, no, we do look at other styles of football. I think this is why these tournaments are so important for our girls in terms of the level of football in England now is really good for youth players coming through. These major tournaments give them an opportunity to play against teams that they've never played before in the world, and up against cultures and different styles of play they've never played against. So this is why we want, as England, as a pathway, we want to try and give our youth players as many of these major tournaments as possible at youth level, so that they can experience playing in humidity, playing in different weather, playing up against different nations. We obviously play European teams often within our pathway, but certainly teams from all over the world is a totally different ball game. Certainly for our players, and also for us as a group of coach and staff, analysing different styles and having to be adaptable and adapt in the moment. We found the teams are tactically very good and can switch very quickly. So we need to be on that as well. So yeah, it's been a really good experience so far, and a really good learning experience for staff and players.
Obviously, you're immersed in this, so you know far more about the youth group stuff than we do, maybe. But that was something that we reflected on after that. We went to see Dominican Republic against Ecuador, the opening game, and I was really impressed with how they were tactically, their strength on the ball. You know, for a young team under 17s. The quality of football actually on display at this tournament so far has really impressed me. Have you found that?
Yeah, definitely. I think football in general now is, I think younger players are becoming tactically better than what we've seen previously. And everybody just keeps getting better. So we talk about us as a team, we need to keep getting better, but at the same time, everybody else is getting better as well. So the level's really, really high. I think the standard is the highest it's ever been at this age group. And I think certainly that's really good for our girls and their development. And we need to be tactically good at this age to be able to cope in major tournaments. So yeah, I think it's given them a bit of everything of what they need if they want to go on and play for our Lionesses.
What for you has been the biggest challenge in getting to this competition?
Good question. I think obviously the competition format of how you qualify for World Cup is tough in terms of having to finish in the top 3 of the Euros. And obviously that's different for other nations here as well. I feel like for the European teams, it is tough to get into the World Cup to start with. So we were really proud that we had made that achievement. Obviously we were proud to get into the Euro final as well. But then we don't just want to come here and participate and think that it's really nice that we qualified. We want to come and compete on the world stage and be up there with the best teams in the world at this age. So I think it's had its challenges so far in terms of we've not prepped for a camp in a country like this before, in terms of dealing with the jet lag, being away from home, family and friends being away from home. So it's certainly been a really big camp to prep for. But again, one that our girls could potentially face in the future. So it's really good preparation for them moving forward.
Absolutely. How are you managing the schedule of balancing the demands of this tournament, given this is going to be confusing for our listeners? Another under 17s group is currently trying to qualify for the Euros.
Yeah, it's confusing for us as a pathway, not just the listeners. No, do you know what? It's really exciting. I think the fact we've got an under 17 team in a European campaign right now, and they've done pretty well as well, because I've obviously got my eye on that one, is really exciting. And then the fact we've got another under 17 group, you know, away at a World Cup, it's exactly where we want our players to be in terms of what I said before. We think these tournaments are vital for their development and can give them things that are domestically can't, I guess, at this time. So yeah, it's super exciting for England. I think the pathway is in such a strong position, and I think that's thanks to the hard work that the clubs are doing. I think it's really easy to look at what we're achieving on the international stage, but we couldn't do that without the hard work of the clubs and the standards that they're setting. The girls get a lot of support in clubs. They get excellent facilities, excellent programs, and then essentially we get to bring them all together and go and do the fun bit in Dominican Republic. So yeah, the work of the clubs is really important, but I feel the pathway's in a strong place.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how much that's kind of developed over the years, because it's certainly an enviable aspect, I think, from talking to other teams. You know, the depth that England have, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch in terms of staffing. And well, it seems to be one of the markers that everyone kind of uses. They say like England are up there in terms of one of the best. Yeah,
they do. And we're so lucky for that. We don't hide the fact we are well resourced. We like to do things properly and maximise every opportunity we can. I think the good thing with England and our pathway and the FA is we always want to be better. We want to be the world's best at every age group as well as our seniors. So we understand we are well resourced, but it's how you use those resources. And I think that's the other part, is we need to make sure that, a bit like last night's game, you can't buy character, you can't buy hard work, you can't buy spirit, you can't buy a winning mindset. So we need to make sure we get all that bit right, as well as the bits off the pitch that we're really fortunate to have.
Do you feel like that's something though as well that is being bred into the pathway, that kind of spirit and mentality?
Yeah, 100%. I think the pathway has a really nice connection in terms of all the head coaches and assistant coaches and all of our multidisciplinary teams. We cross staff over across age groups. We have a real golden thread across the teams in terms of the style we want to play and who we want to be and the culture we want to have. And I think that makes it easy for the players when they move throughout the pathway as well. So I certainly feel like we're in a good place, and hopefully all of our youth teams continue to do well in each campaign that they're in as well. That reflects nicely.
What does that look like for you when you're prepping? Because obviously you don't get a lot of time as an international coach. You know, you get these windows every so often. So for you when you're prepping within the pathway, what does that look like for you? How connected are you to the other teams?
I think very connected in terms of us as a group of national coaches and the work we do. When we're not on camp, we work very closely with clubs around individuals, around programs, around their physical performance programs and what they're going to come into camp like. We go to games, we're watching players all the time, and then obviously also prepping for camps. This one took a lot of prepping and a lot of meetings. So yeah, we try and maximise our time when we're not on camp to still be in close connection with the players, with the clubs, and then also making our pathway better and staying connected to each other.
And how prepped are you for, I guess, when new things are brought into major tournaments like the World Cup, the various analysis and the tools that you have available to you when you come? How much prep does that take, I guess, because you have to learn how to use all of it? And, you know, we touched on the referral process. Yeah, what is that like for you as a team?
Yeah, I think, again, I'm really fortunate to have some really good people around me. And I think that is the exciting thing about England, is we've got some excellent staff members in the building that all want to get better, and we know how to maximise each other, and we're all comfortable enough to know that we want to get better. And I think that's the mindset throughout our pathway. So I think we've done a lot of research on the new technology that's come into place. How can we maximise it? How can we use it to our advantage? And again, there's always going to be new things coming into place, and there's always things to learn. So we keep reflecting on, even after every game, did we use that in the right way? But I think just the mindset of the people around me and the way we are, we want to be the world's best. So anything we can do to gain an advantage, we will try our best to do.
And do you find that, like, when maybe an under-23s or an under-20 or even the seniors come back and maybe have utilised something, is there the opportunity for you to kind of get in a room together and talk about what facilities are available or how you maximise things that are on offer?
Yeah, I think, again, that is the good thing about the pathway, is everybody's open to help each other. So even prior to this tournament, my coach and staff at under-17s, we sat with some of the senior staff and were like, what challenges did you come up against tactically in your World Cup? What could we maybe expect in our World Cup? And we sat and had football conversations. And I think, again, just that connection, that culture across the whole pathway, and everybody wanting to help each other and wanting the youth teams to succeed as well as our senior teams is really exciting, and is the bit that keeps us getting better. So that's been good.
How much has that changed over the years? Like, because it feels like it's changed quite quickly.
Yeah, I think it has changed. I think we're very well resourced. I think we are getting better at reflecting on how things were in the past and then how we want to make them better in the future. So I think, like anything, you always want to keep getting better. You always want to reflect on how things were and try and maximise how you can get better. And I think that is our mindset. So yeah, I do think it has changed, and I think we're in a good place with it.
When we think about the last time there was a team at the Under-17s World Cup, you know, you think of your Georgia Stanways, your Leslie Russos, like that, they were the players that were involved in that. And, you know, do you feel like you're coaching essentially the stars of the future?
Yeah, I've not thought of it in that way. But I know the players take real inspiration from that. It really excites them in terms of they're in a position that some of their idols have been in, and it gives them that hunger and that desire to keep kicking on. I think for me, I just look at it as working with people that are trying to be the very best they can be, and it's my job to help them do that. So I think it's exciting, and I think that really does inspire the players. I think that's what we all want as coaches and as staff. We want to help these young players get into our Lionesses in the future and play in senior major tournaments. That's certainly our aim, and to have that a bit of an impact on their path, on their development, and that pathway is what we strive for.
You touched on it earlier about, you know, some of the club academies and players playing in the WSL and the Championship. How much of an impact have you seen in your players from experiencing that kind of professionalization at such a young age?
Yeah, I think it's really increased over the years in terms of the players' programs are getting better, like younger players being exposed to senior football at a young age. It is something we strive for in the pathway. Playing minutes is a massive thing for our young players. They need to play match minutes. So I think clubs have been excellent at finding ways to do that, whether that's putting them on dual registrations, whether it's loaning them out so that they're getting playing minutes. Certainly is something we think is really important for these young players. And like I said before, I think some of the programs they have in place now, the facilities they're exposed to, the staff that they're around in their clubs, like, are real specialists in what they do, is only making our players better. And we're really grateful and really fortunate for all the work that the clubs do, because then we get to bring them in the building and ultimately they get to show that off. So I think it's in a really exciting place.
And the talent pool is really growing as well. I mean, the fact that you can put out 2 under-17 teams is a testament to that. But, you know, for you to choose from, it must be a hard job.
Yeah, it is a hard job, and it's the hardest part of the job and the most difficult part. And I think the part that every coach finds the toughest, leaving players out, is certainly not the bit you enjoy doing. So yeah, it's tough, but it's also shows the strength of our game right now in England, and the depth is certainly increasing, and also the quality of the depth, right? So depth can just be numbers, but actually the quality of that depth is in a far better place than it's ever been before, which I think is really exciting. You
know, there have been conversations around, you know, English players in the WSL and the Championship, and actually seeing the quality and the depth at this age group must be quite exciting for the next kind of 5 years for English football.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the exciting thing. We know we have exciting players in the building. We know we have exciting young English players that could move on to play in our Lionesses, and we want them to keep getting those opportunities in the Championship, in the Women's Super League. We want them to keep getting those minutes on the pitch because we know how crucial they are for their development. And I think clubs are good at that now, in terms of giving players the exposure they need, putting the right programs in place, and also making it right for the individual rather than just the same program for everybody. I think each individual is different and has different needs. And I think that's a big thing as well, which, yeah, I think we're in a good place with.
Absolutely. What do you hope the team will take away from this tournament? Not just in terms of results and on the pitch experience, but I guess off the pitch as well. But for such a young group to be so far away at such a big tournament, there's a lot to learn.
Yeah, there is a lot to learn. And I think we reflected on it after the Euros. We say we're a team that wants to be in the present and we want to enjoy the small moments. And that's not just the football. So I think we've talked around making memories. Our quote of the camp is, sometimes you don't realise a moment until it is a memory. And whether that's on the pitch, off the pitch, we're really big on embracing that and enjoying our time here, because before you know it, it'll be over. So I think that's something the team are really good at. And again, you can't replicate this. I always say you'll never get this time again with the same group of staff and players. So essentially make the most of it and enjoy it along the way. So we want to win games of football. We want to win them with the right performances, but we also want to enjoy our time with each other and create some special memories, which I think we're doing.
I guess you play better as well when you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're happy, you perform better. So that's the motto we're going with. Everybody stay happy.
Well, by the time this comes out, you will have played North Korea. But I guess the benefit being that, of course, you want to go and win that game, but knowing that you've already qualified, which is incredible and such an achievement, you know, to be able to take away from this tournament, wherever you finish, to get through this tough group, it's been pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it is a tough group. And I think when I was sat at the draw and we got this group, I remember thinking that is a tough group and it's going to bring different challenges. So we're very fortunate and very happy that we have got out of the group and into a quarterfinal. Our objective coming into this camp was to top the group. So we do want to beat North Korea. We want to get our performance right in terms of the past 2 games. There's still bits that we feel we could be better at. So it's always a strange feeling when you've already qualified, but you still have a game to go because you don't want to take your foot off the gas. So we're very clear that our objective is to finish top of the group, not to get to a quarter final.